Good morning, everybody. My name is Gab Chabran. I am the Priority Projects Manager with EXP. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's presentation as part of our virtual guest speaker series hosted with the ProvenReady program. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to briefly tell you a little bit about our organizations. EXP is a local Southern California nonprofit known as the Opportunity Engine. Why is that? Through programs like this one, EXP prepares great students for a better life. Our programs help you gain experience, unlock doors, and build the confidence you need to succeed in school, career, and life. ProvenReady has helped build tomorrow's workforce today by giving high school students the opportunity to learn more about college and career opportunities in business entrepreneurship, global trade, advanced transportation, and logistics, as well as the opportunity to earn industry certified credentials in those sectors. Check us out at expfuture.org and provenready.org and follow us on social media. Now let's get started by giving a warm welcome to today's speaker, Matthew Wolfhardt. Raised in Southern California with family roots in Germany, Matthew's interest in fashion started during his attendance at Palm Springs High School. His career in the fashion industry began in 1997 after graduating from Brooks College in Long Beach, California, designing for well-known brands such as Playboy, Lucky Brand, BCBG, Conair, and Splendid. In 2004, he developed his own brand, Wolfhardt, of men's and women's leather accessories made in Los Angeles, California. Wolfhardt promotes a strong brand image and product quality and style, focusing on sophisticated luxury leather bags and other small accessories worn by celebrities such as Breaking Bad's RJ Mitte, Keanu Reeves, Ice-T, and many more. Matthew is working on furthering his brand by collaborating with local artists in the Los Angeles area. I would love to hear more about that. Matthew is also in the process of establishing his own marketing agency focused on supporting other fashion and beauty companies with their own online media presence and developing their image and audience. Great. Thank you so much for being here, Matthew. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So we're going to do this presentation interview style today. We have a couple of questions that we're going to go ahead and get started with. How were you exposed to this career path early on?
Oh man, that's going back a long time. I mean, as a kid, I was always creative. I was always coloring, drawing, painting. I'm always taking art classes, anything I can get my hands on as far as being creative was concerned. I really had a passion for it. So when I was in school, I started taking classes. Being in high school, it was really important to me to look the part and really just, be cool, follow the trends, dress the best, and just kind of fit in. I think that's what every high schooler and anybody in school kind of wants to be like, It wasn't until high school that I got into fashion merchandising. When I arrived in Palm Springs, I saw a fashion merchandising class and I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. I really liked fashion. I really liked being creative. And I took it my junior year. I ended up actually taking it my senior year as well. And it really just kind of exposed me to, what fashion was really about, honing in on my skills and learning, what my next step was. We learned a lot through that class, being a part of fashion shows, working behind the scenes of fashion shows. And it was really just, the whole lights and glamour of it and the hustle was very attractive to me. And it really just kind of, sealed my fate as far as moving forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next question. Tell us about training or coursework that you received in and out of the classroom.
After high school, after I took fashion merchandising in high school, I definitely decided that I want to pursue my career in fashion. Again, it all seemed very attractive to me with the lights and the models and being creative. I ended up attending at Brooks College in Long Beach. There is where I learned to sew, learned pattern making, color theory, merchandising, a lot of the skills that are kind of, you use in fashion. I never touched a sewing machine in my whole life. So it was quite an experience. And it was good to kind of immerse myself in that arena of creativity. I was surrounded by it and it was great. My fellow students, my friends were in fashion. It was just everywhere you looked was creativity. And it was an amazing experience. Unfortunately, back in the day, they didn't have computers. So we had to do everything by pen and pencil and paper and actually cut things out. So it was very hands-on. It wasn't until I got into the workforce where, I started learning these skills, having to use computers, and actually learn that, my knowledge as a designer is to keep up with the growing trends and the latest technology that's going on. I took classes, I asked people questions. I watched a lot of YouTube. YouTube itself is a great tool for any student or anybody not knowing how to do anything. I always joke around and be like, well, where'd you learn that? I learned it at the University of YouTube. So, it's a great tool. And there's a lot of classes online that are just, you can sign up for classes and learn new things.
Is it hard to use a sewing machine on leather?
It's another learning experience. I think that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur. You have to expect to fail. You can plan and you don't plan to fail, but you got to try. I don't know how many needles I've broken, pieces of leather that I've been through, but you got to try. And that's one of the great things of being an entrepreneur, is because you have that passion and that drive to succeed and make things possible, making your dreams possible.
Can you tell us about any internships or organizations that students can tap into early?
There's plenty of resources out there as far as internships or entry-level positions. A lot of the bigger companies like BCBG, Lucky Brand, Conair, they do and will take on internships. One of the greatest things of being, new into the workforce is, your ability to learn, and your ability to get started is attractive to a lot of people out there. Check with your local community college, check with your colleges, and even your industry employment agencies. I'm more than happy to send those to you as well. But there's a handful of agencies out there in fashion that will help place you in internships, entry-level positions.
What are some networks or people that have helped you along the way?
I think it has to start from home. Some of the most inspirational people come from home, and that's mom and dad. Sometimes they can be challenging, but they're there to support you and ask them questions. Teachers are the most important as well. I know that through college and through high school, a lot of the teachers I got along with really well, and I asked questions, I asked for help. I still remember a lot of them today. Miss Irwin in high school, she taught my fashion merchandising class. She was always there to support me, to push me, to succeed. Miss Gale at Brooks College, she was the director of design there. She was always there to talk about my struggles, in work or where I wanted to be. Sometimes, as a student or entrepreneur, you're lost. So it's good to talk to people like that. And talk to your fellow designers, talk to your fellow students or graphic designers. I think being an entrepreneur and being a creative, you have that ability to look over to your fellow person and be like, how did you do that? Where did you get to where you are? And just really pull together, don't be afraid to ask for help and ask questions.
What are some tips that you can give students who are interested in starting their own business?
I think today is easier now than it ever has been to start a business with e-commerce and globalization. Anybody can start a business. I've seen people start businesses with, hair ties, bathing suits, braiding, dog leashes, whatever it is. Feed into your drive and your passion as an entrepreneur. Start your business, get that business out there, get a business license. I know, remembering when I first started, I got a business license and I was all excited because, I was all official, and it's a great moment. It's a step forward. Learning along the way and asking a lot of questions, I learned that SBDC is a good resource. And that is a small business organization here in California. You can always contact them, and they are great in, helping you develop your business plan, helping you develop, your financials, putting you into touch with people that are willing to help you. All of those resources are for free. Another great organization that I learned about was SCORE. They have a great organization to help entrepreneurs as far as mentorship is concerned. I know within the past year, I started my marketing company, and I have a couple, really good marketing mentors that I can come back and ask. Me as a professional, I don't know everything. I'm never going to know everything. So everybody has a mentor, everybody has a coach. Definitely do your homework. I know those of you out there, hate homework, hate doing research, but do your homework as a business. If you have a product or service that you are selling, do your homework. How are you unique from what's out there? What is your offering? What is your branding? What is your brand personality? These are all very important questions early on as a part of a business. Put a business plan in place, create those goals, put together goals for 3 months, 6 months, 5 years. Push yourself, you really have to push yourself. Again, it's that passion and drive that are really going to make you successful. Being an entrepreneur, we're a special breed. There's a lot of ups and downs in part of that. And there's a lot of ups and downs in business as well. That success is always going to be there. You just have to work for it. As a business owner, I don't believe that you are ever alone. We are all in this together, and, talk to people. I talk to other people as far as makeup and leather and photographers, and it's important to build that cabinet, build that team that's in your family of business. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no such thing as impossible. Everything going online, buy that domain. If you have a domain name, if you have a business name, buy it. It could cost $11, it could cost $50, but once you have that domain, that's yours, and that's your place on the internet. It's part of your business.
Great advice. Yeah, I think it's a good idea for anybody to grab their own domain name, even if it's your first and last name. You can use that for portfolio work, resumes, anything like that. Just make sure it's yours and it's available and it looks really snazzy on resumes and all that kind of stuff too as well. So you mentioned your marketing business that you recently started, and that was after you started your fashion label. So I want to kind of like break down a little bit about that. Number one, what caused you to start a marketing business aside from your already existing business? And tell me some distinctions. I mean, obviously they're different in nature in terms of the purposes that they serve, but what are some things that you did differently that second time around from starting your second business as far as that goes? And we can kind of take it from there.
What did I do differently? I definitely knew a lot of things that I didn't know from starting Wolfhardt. I recently, in 2017, I went back to school for business and marketing. I discovered that fashion kind of hit the ceiling for me, and I wasn't going to go any higher than I already was, and that was part of creating Wolfhardt, was because I wanted something of my own. Marketing was very attractive to me. I also know that, working online is, marketing is a big importance as far as a business is concerned. So when I created Black Market, I wanted to create another entity that would not only bring in income, but also support Wolfhardt and any other businesses that I would start. If I can go back and do it all over again, it'd be like, okay, A, B, C, D. But I mean, it's part of learning. Black Markets is, I've got clients now. It's now bringing in income. It's now supporting Wolfhardt as a separate business, and it's exciting. You created something out of nothing. It's all yours. And I think that's quite an achievement.
Any encouraging tips for students who are not exposed to this particular path or don't have any existing network to take advantage of?
Ask questions. Going back into Wolfhardt, I didn't graduate high school or college knowing that I wanted to do leather. I fell into that. I didn't know anything about sewing leather. I didn't know anything about leather. And I just started asking questions, knocking on doors. I always say, you knock on 10 doors, like, 2 have to answer. Be determined, get that exposure of your network around you, and talk to people. Again, ask your mom, ask your dad, community college. The internet is a great source, it's a tremendous source of just knowledge, to go out there and start asking questions, start posting, see what's out there. Eventually you'll find what you need, and that determination will drive you to the point of, being comfortable of what you were driven to seek out in the beginning. And again, build your cabinet, get that network out there. If it's fashion, you're going to have, a handful of photographers, you're going to have your makeup artists, you're going to have your models. If it's marketing, you're going to have your graphic designers, your content creators, influencers. Build your cabinet, and you'll always have people to come back to and ask questions. So it's all about relationships. I think in today's world, it's all about, developing those relationships, earning people's trust, doing business by the shake of a hand. I mean, there's comfort in doing and working with people that you have the trust in doing so.
Wonderful, wonderful. You mentioned not knowing that you wanted to go into leather originally. Was there an aha moment where you were like, this is I don't know, leather's not a textile, so I don't want to refer to it as that. I think that's incorrect,
it's a material,
right?
It's a material.
It's a material.
Yeah.
When what moment did you decide this is the material for me? This is what I want to base my line and my brand around?
I was working at Brighton. Brighton, they do handbags. And funny enough, I saw a piece of leather that caught my eye. I took it out of the trash and I was like, well, I'm going to make some bands out of it, some wristbands,
Okay. Yeah.
And grabbed some hardware and I ended up sewing it. I cut it, I sew it, I put it on. It looks cool,
Yeah.
And people started asking me about it. They're like, where did you get your bands? Like, did you make them? And I was like, yeah, I made them. And pretty soon, girls wanted to buy them for their boyfriends. My buddies wanted a pair in different colors. And, the thing about leather is it has its own personality. If it creates its own personality through wear and tear. You have a leather jacket, you wear it for 10 years, that leather jacket is worn just for you. It has that personality. And I really love that as a creative, and I just went into it. I was like, well, let's make some belts, let's make some bags. There weren't so many successes in the beginning. I had created ideas and, let's do this, that's not a good idea. So you learn. I don't think you have to be afraid of failure. You just have to, just keep going, be determined. It'll I think you constantly have to be growing, constantly have to be developing your shape as a designer, as an entrepreneur, as a business.
Tell me a little bit more about that process of when you come up with an idea and you realize it's not a good one. What is that like? Because I imagine you have to swallow your pride a little bit. Ego plays into all of that. What does that process look like for you?
I think you kind of hit it on the dot. Ego, pride, it can be expensive process to make mistakes. I always say that, you can have an artist, but every successful artist is a good business person. Right. Take a look at this idea. Does it make sense? Who's going to buy this idea? It's going to take me $100 to make this. Is anybody else going to be interested? And sometimes it doesn't work out, by the fate of, what's possible in life, it just doesn't work out. So you have to be flexible. I think that's the greatest challenge, is to be innovative, during those challenging moments. Not having the money, not having the ability to do something, but trying to figure out some other way to do it. Because if you had money, you can make it out of gold if you wanted to, but and it would be amazing. But if you only have $100, how do we make this amazing and attractive to people?
I think you really, again, sort of hit the nail on the head, because it's like there's the assumption, at least on my part, that business doesn't always sort of come hand in hand with something like that. It's very sort of a left brain, right brain situation. So from what I'm hearing from you is that with somebody who has these creative sort of inclinations, that they owe it to themselves to sort of help develop that other part in order to sort of ensure their success. Is that
Right.
what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, when things don't work, I've often found myself, years later circling back around and finding new opportunities to make it work. I was listening to a speaker a while back, and he's like, if you can't do something, maybe now is not the time, not yet,
Right.
but
Right.
maybe later you have the opportunity and the possibility to make it happen. So
yeah. No, I think timing is an interesting concept, especially when we're sort of talking about new and creative ideas. Sometimes maybe the world isn't necessarily ready for a certain idea or something
Right.
along those lines. But I think kind of the bottom line in terms of the essence that we're getting at here is that you don't want to necessarily throw away an idea or something,
No.
keep it stashed away, and it might come about, once it's time, is what I'm sort of understanding.
Exactly.
So tell us a cool aspect about your job, and what does your day-to-day look like?
I think there's lots of cool aspects, of designing, of being, working in the fashion industry, working in marketing, learning to use what's natural to me is extremely cool. Designing, conceptualizing, doing photo shoots, being the face of my business, and basically sitting back and appreciating those little bits of successes that you do have as a business. You got to pat yourself on the back when those moments really arise. Day-to-day businesses, I think about owning your own business. You, as a business owner, as a manager, you have to know every bit of that business, good and bad. If you have to take out the trash today, you take out the trash. If you're in the front cover of a magazine tomorrow, but I think it's good to be humble as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. There's some days, I get up and I do texts and emails. And, I'm downtown LA picking up leather, meeting with vendors. Other days, it's like, it's Friday, let's knock off early and just relax a little bit. It's important to have that balance, as a business owner, create that constant flow.
It's interesting that you talk about that balance, because I think that there's also this idea surrounding creative types that you have to burn the candle at both ends all the time in order to sort of seek that inspiration. And I'm thinking about all those episodes of Project Runway that I've watched, where you see them working into the wee hours, with cuts on their fingers and all that kind of stuff. How is it that you find that balance in that respect? And was that an easy process for you? Did you sort of come to that realization?
It wasn't an easy process at all. My passion and my drive, I was just go up until 2-3 o'clock at night. It wasn't until I actually took business, I went back to school for business and learn to, plan and schedule and compartmentalize my day-to-day goals and schedule. It feels a lot better. You have balance, you're a little bit more strategic than how you think about things, what you want to achieve, short-term, long-term. Every morning, every night, I'm writing a success list, not a to-do list, a success list.
Okay.
And make a list, make a list of what you need to do, what you want to do. I go to sleep a lot better, and it turns the mind off to know that I have a list at night, and I can wake up in the morning and be like, okay, this is what I need to achieve today. This is what I need to do. And crossing those off, is a good feeling. So it's a step-by-step process.
So when you say a success list, those are all things that you achieved sort of that day, or as far as that goes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a to-do list. It's a matter of,
reflection.
Exactly. It's, this is this was my success for today. This is my success for tomorrow, and crossing that off, whether it could be anything. It can be, clean the cat box, or, do an interview tomorrow at 8:45 a.m. Once you get into that practice, it's a good exercise to have each day.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. I love that. Can you tell us about any entry level positions available, particularly for high school or community college students?
Entry level positions. I know there's a lot of programs out there that are, willing to help out students. We talked about early on, going to the actual, corporations, Lucky Brand, BCBG. They have a lot of positions open for students. Contact your fashion industry agencies. I mean, that's a great resource.
Yeah.
And basically, you'll talk to a representative that will take a look at your resume, help place you, and help you out.
Last question here, and this is kind of, we talked a lot about sort of how you got here, and now I want to talk a little bit, kind of switch the focus on sort of where you see the industry going in terms of the future of your profession with the impact of digitalization. Is there aspects that are going to be automated? Do you think it's easier to start a business now or more difficult? And also, and you've mentioned this kind of throughout the presentation, but what do you feel like are some skills that are needed from that perspective?
I think the skills that are needed most are, mostly technical, being ahead of the game. There's always new things coming out. I know within the past 20 years that I've been in the industry, computers are a big tool in the fashion industry. Learn your programs, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, learn all those. Being a pattern maker, computers definitely play a part. Anywhere from, placing the patterns to, cut to actually cutting out the fabric. Printing on fabric. You can print on anything nowadays. You can print things at home, from a printer. And it's kind of like, what's the next best thing? Who's to say that we can't print our own clothing? Now we can print cars and buildings and whatever else. Who's to say we can't print our own jewelry or our own jacket or whatever later on? I've seen solar panels, heat pads in clothing. I think globalization has really opened things up as far as business and being innovative is concerned. China is a big part. Other countries, Canada is a great fashion industry to kind of play into technology, and how does that fit into our businesses? The internet, globalization, it's all made it much easier to own a business now than ever. I mean, you can sell off of Instagram, you can sell off of Facebook. There's many other social media platforms that you can sell off of. And that puts you into touch with other people, influencers, other designers, other creatives. It's easy. It's so much easier now than what it used to be. When I was trying to develop Wolfhardt, I actually went downtown, had to walk into a building and fill out a form. Nowadays, it's like you fill out a form and, you can get your business license in a matter of minutes. Again, don't be afraid to take that step. Get your business license, buy your domain name. Start contacting people online, talk to people in China, start making things happen. You never know where you're going to end up. You just keep taking those steps forward.
Great. Thank you. Those are all of the questions that we had for the interview portion, but I want to turn over to the chat portion now. And everybody's been really great throwing in some questions for Matthew. Keep them coming as we come about. But I want to showcase Marcus, who's been really active in the chat. Thank you for all your great engagement. We really appreciate it, Marcus. His first question is, how much revenue does your business earn annually on average?
It's been a little slow with COVID, but
Okay.
probably 50 to 75 a year.
Okay.
I've been very smart in my business, and I kept everything home based. Talking about being innovative and the current trends in the environment, you can work from home. You don't. I think the days of walking into a building and having that overhead and having people come into work is kind of old fashioned. Nowadays it's I've got somebody in Brazil managing, my social media. I have somebody in India doing film editing. When we were talked about globalization, you got to think outside the box. Budget is important as well. I don't have the budget, but I can work with somebody in Romania that's willing to do it for $25 an hour. Business minded, taking those business classes, thinking smart.
I want to just touch on this briefly, if possible. You mentioned COVID being a factor. What has the impact of the pandemic been like for you?
Early on, it was really great. I mean, people were stuck at home and they were shopping, and they're spending. Yeah. Later on, it was kind of like, okay, well, we kind of had to switch gears and kind of pivot. You have to think fast. Again, being innovative about what's going on in the environment as a business. Things can switch on a dime. So I've created some, new products. I did a collaboration with an artist to kind of up the line a little bit and create some sort of, excitement. Sales, I mean, people, it's tough for everybody. Nobody's going out, nobody's getting dressed up, but you constantly have to do, little capsules or little injections of things. Test this out. Do we get a good reaction? Do we not get a good reaction? And don't be afraid to fail. Throw it up against the wall. Does it work? Does it not work? Just constantly being innovative in whatever business you are.
I would imagine that it's pretty easy to get reactions these days because it feels like everybody's on their phone more and in that sense. So a question about your material. Ivan wants to know, what type of leather do you use? And then Marcus said, is it true that leather can only come from a cow skin, or do you use other materials as well? So I thought I would compound both Ivan and Marcus's great question to get your professional opinion.
I use obviously cow leather. There's different types of leather. I mean, leather comes from anywhere from a lamb, a pig, even salmon skins, snakes. Depends on, what is legal. I use cow leather from Italy. I get my leather from Italy. What was the second question?
I think you mostly answered it as far as that goes. It says, what type of leather do you use? Which you answered that. Mm-hmm. Is it true that leather can only come from a cow? And you mentioned it, all the other
nowadays,
materials.
And it's funny you said that. They can grow leather in labs now, and as we were talking about being innovative, you can grow leather in a lab. I've also seen them use pineapples as well.
Oh. Okay, so like
pineapple leaves, leather. Plant-based. Yeah. I tend to stay away from vegan leather because it is petroleum-based, and it's not really that good for the environment in the end anyways.
But I'm sure lots of innovation is happening on that end in terms of kind of discovering new materials as far as all that goes.
Definitely.
That would be a topic for presentation alone, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Ruth Emanuel, one of our regional directors here, shout out to Ruth, who is in the chat. She oversees global trade. And so her question is, your website is a great showcase of your work. Do you have global sales? How do you handle e-commerce side of your business?
I do have global sales. As far as e-commerce is concerned, I do it all myself. I don't keep stock. So this is again, being innovative. Everything is made here in LA, and it takes about 2 weeks. So what I've done is I've introduced a process to bring the customer into the whole process. So they'll get alerts of saying like, hey, we got your order. Your handbag is being packed. A couple of days later, hey, your handbag is being sewn. A couple of days later, it's like, we're putting the finishing touches on your handbag. So it kind of personalizes the whole experience, and people love it. People really love it. Yeah. But I do it all myself. I do all the shipping. I have people that make the bags for me. It's great to, have the orders, put that personal touch into each one, put in a thank you card, thank you very much, make it personal. People love getting that interaction and that face from your brand.
Another question, what are some marketing strategies that you would say benefited your business the most?
I think co-branding, collaborating it's a very good strategy. Working with, right now I'm working with a local artist on marketing some different products. We have a hoodie, she drew a little rabbit in her artistic, way. And collaborating. Don't be afraid to collaborate with other, brands. It taps into their audience. It's something new and different. Reaching out to influencers as well is a good strategy. We reach out to influencers every day and collaborating and working together, sending them products, sending them a discount code for their audience, and they're able to make a certain amount of money on that as well. Find your strategy that works for you. Sometimes they don't work out. I'm trying to think of one that doesn't work out. Standing on the corner and waving a sign, oh, buy Wolfhardt, that's not going to work. So you try to move on to something else. Again, being innovative, right. try to find that niche that isn't really working for you and make it work.
Yeah. Niche being key, obviously. Being very target specific, I think is a big part of it too.
Right.
Fantastic. What are some of the mistakes that you committed along the way with your business?
I've made a lot of mistakes with Wolfhardt. It was my first business, and everybody's going to have mistakes. It never kept me down. I always got back up. There've been mistakes where, production mistakes where, I need 10 of these. And I wasn't completely thorough in the very beginning. I don't really remember, but it's maybe a stitch, or maybe they cut it out of brown instead of black leather. You got to be detailed, and I know it's not a really fun word for some people out there, but you have to be detailed and thorough, because those mistakes can cost a lot of money. Going back to business, legalities of things, do your contracts, take a legal class, business, a business law class, and put those contracts in place. I know I just did a photo shoot last Sunday, and I sent a contract to both the photographer and the model. It's business, it's not the fun part of business, but you got to protect yourself, because as a business, you're an entity that somebody, wants to get to, whether it's good or bad. So
sure. Next question. I have some students stress over coming up with a business name before seeking a business license. Did you consider other brand names? Is it recommended to change brand names after launch?
I probably wouldn't change it after launch. We have what we call a soft launch. You just kind of tell your friends and families, oh, we're doing this, test the waters a little bit. But again, don't be afraid to ask your mom, your dad, your teachers, your friends, about business names. I struggled with Wolfhardt for quite some time. I was like, well, I want something charismatic and cool, and I didn't want to put my full name on it, but I wanted to kind of, have the definition of the brand in the name. Throw it up against the wall, do some keywords. What do we call this? Do we call it black? Do we call it market? Do we call it marketing? Black market, I did the same thing. I had quite the struggle with black market fully written out. Being creative and innovative, marked is market in German. So in a way, I was kind of saying the same thing,
right.
M-A-R-K-T in German, as it was in English, M-A-R-K-E-T.
Right.
So your brand is your personality. Don't be afraid to show yourself in your brand. If you're fun and bubbly and, charismatic, make it fun and bubbly and charismatic, because that's what your audience is going to tune into. If you're a little dark and mysterious, put something dark and mysterious in the name, and ask around, have people vote. I think that's the biggest thing, is asking the people around you, what do you think about this name? What do you think about this logo?
Last question. Somebody who wants to start their own clothing brand, how would they go about getting their designs mass produced?
First of all, you would probably, design it first of all, put together a catalog, put together what we call a line sheet, of your tops, your bottoms, jackets, bags, pants, whatever it may be. Start asking around. I know that you can call Tala, T-A-L-A, and the fashion district, and they will give you resources that will help you produce your product, anywhere from pattern makers to sewers. Don't be afraid to reach out to China as well. But yeah, I mean, make it happen. It's an exciting moment to just start, how do I do this? Ask around, start making phone calls, go downtown LA, start walking around. And if anybody has any other questions, I mean, I would like to invite them to ask me. I'm more than happy to help them out and support them.
I wanted to give us an opportunity though for you to maybe pull up some examples of your, if you don't mind, on your website or your Instagram. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some recent designs of yours that you're excited about. Just so
let's see here.
Sense of your work.
Let's go here. With this past season, I was able to do hardware. I was never able to do hardware before, and I know we talked about that early on, about circling back around to an idea. And I was able to actually do hardware for this piece of hardware. Now it's very simple, it's very little, but it was important to me because, they were willing to meet my minimums. They were willing to, work with me as far as payment is concerned. And, as a business owner, I had to know how to utilize that piece of hardware in the broader use. So yeah,
that hardware, it's branded, right? It's branded with the label,
is branded,
with your name on it.
It is branded. Personally, it was beautiful. Very, it had my name on it. It wasn't just something that I didn't go somewhere. It was quite, special to me. Looking back in our Instagram, Wolfhardt Official, this was a great example of working together with good people. Early Sunday morning, we got up at 8 o'clock in the morning and went downtown, looked around, and then ended up doing a photo shoot. It took about 3 hours, and it was really great. Again, working with those relationships, developing those relationships, and everybody was willing to work with inside my budget. We created something really great. And people, I mean, obviously you can see how well it did.
So we are nearing the last 5 minutes. So any other final questions for Matthew? Feel free to drop them in the chat. Feel free to follow him on Instagram, obviously, too, as well. But any other, what do you have else business-wise coming up, either for your line or for marketing? Anything you're excited about right now?
We're just going to keep doing collaborations, and reaching out to local artists. It's kind of a good moment right now for us because we're kind of a bigger fish than what we used to be. And so it's great to work with, artists. We're going to be coming up in springtime. We have some new product coming out, so that'll be exciting. We have some good content. If you follow us on Wolfhardt Official, we have some really great content coming out.
And then do you have a website for your marketing business as well? Marcus is asking about the second business that you started. So this is
Black Market. I started this probably about the past year. Again, this was something to support Wolfhardt and to bring in other business. I was able to utilize my skills in branding, digital marketing, and design and offer that to other businesses. So this is a website that I put together on Shopify. And I was able to get a lot of the support and help from the SBDC. Those of you out there that are entrepreneurs, that would probably be the first step, is to contact the SBDC, contact SCORE online, and they will be happy to help you out and guide you.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Beautiful website. Great job.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Matthew before we sign off? Marcus is done. Thank you, Marcus. You put in a lot of work with the questions. Ruth says thank you also. Did you design your own website, Jessica wants to know.
I did. I
Okay.
designed both websites. Again, we did it on Shopify, and with the help of SBDC, they were able to walk me through it.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a good resource to take advantage of, given the websites are so important these days. Okay, great. Well, with 1 minute to spare, earn free Shopify store with ProvenReady Nexus Ads licenses. Okay, all right. So we referred to some certificates that in the intro. Ruth is drawing attention to ProvenReady. We will have these opportunities. More information at provenready.org about that. So check that out. So, okay, I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you. We looks like the students have taken that test already. Fantastic. Great. All right. Thank you so much. Feel free to thank Matthew in the chat. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We really, truly appreciate it, Matthew. Thank you for being such a great friend of the program. Matthew also participated in an interview, which will be up on the ProvenReady website too as well, to learn more about him and his story. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And with that, thanks everybody. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming out. This has been a great turnout.